Joining me now to discuss, former Europe, Africa, and Middle East editor at the Associated Press, Dan Perry. Always great to have you, Dan. I know you have such great perspective on this. You know, Trump seems to believe that Putin skipping the talks in Turkey means that he's ready to talk, not just to Zelensky. So let's listen to what Trump said this week about direct talks with Putin.
Nothing's going to happen until Putin and I get together, okay? And obviously he wasn't going to go. He was going to go, but he thought I was going to go. He wasn't going if I wasn't there. And I don't believe anything's going to happen, whether you like it or not, until he and I get together.
Pretty matter of fact. I want to get your take on what the president said and also what leverage, if any, does Trump have at this point to push Putin toward a ceasefire or full peace agreement? What do you think?
Oh, the U.S. is the world's major economy and major military power, and the U.S. has all kinds of pressure if it wanted to deploy it. But the music from Trump is very consistently pro-Putin and pro-Russia. And note that when he says nothing will happen until I meet with Putin, there's a missing piece of that puzzle, and that is Zelensky. So it's as if Trump and Putin are going to go over Zelensky's head and decide the terms of the war. Putin hears this, understands this, has been sensing this for many years now, and very obviously doesn't feel he's under any pressure to do very much in these talks in Turkey, which is why, if anything, the Turkey talks just revealed that Putin is prepared to extend the war, because my understanding is that they demanded yet more land from Ukraine. Basically, the Russians annexed in their illegal referendums more land than they've actually captured, and they would like Ukraine to hand over the rest of it, not for peace, but for a ceasefire.
Yeah,
so if the U.S. wants to put pressure on Russia, it's got to do a lot more.
I also wanted to ask you about the prisoners, because Russia and Ukraine agreed to swap 1,000 prisoners of war each. Why do you think they can't agree to this, but not a 30-day ceasefire? So why is it the prisoners, not the ceasefire? Do you think that they can get there? And is there a risk of conflict escalating again this summer if we can't get this together?
There's a huge risk of conflict escalating, and it basically is, I hate to admit it, it's down to Trump, because my sense is that Trump will probably strong-arm Zelensky into agreeing to the Russian demands. The exchange of prisoners is relatively minor. It's great for those several thousand prisoners, but both sides have taken many more prisoners. We're talking about many Ukrainian civilians who are basically kidnapped to Russia. The problem is way, way bigger than this fairly minor agreement. I think what we saw in Turkey is evidence that both sides, basically, but especially Russia, are currently not prepared to lay down their arms.
You know, while I have you, I want to get to the war in Gaza, because Hamas says a new round of ceasefire talks are underway right now in Doha. Now, this comes after Ben & Jerry's co-founder, Ben Cohen, was arrested this week while protesting during a Senate hearing with Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Cohen says Congress is providing bombs that are killing children in Gaza. I want to listen to what he told NewsNation just this week about how he wants to see Israel handle the situation in Gaza. Let's take a listen.
I believe that you need to treat the Palestinians decently. I think they've been mistreated for, I don't know, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And I think that a two-state solution was the right idea.
All right. So if people are going to be, excuse me, listening to him, we'll wait and see. Cohen may be right to call attention to the suffering of the civilians in Gaza, but can Israel realistically stop bombing while Hamas still has Israeli hostages? How does that break down?
Well, Israel signed an agreement in January that would have ended the war in exchange for all the hostages, and it walked away from that agreement when it seemed to get the green light to do so from Trump, who had compelled Netanyahu to sign the agreement. So Israel can return the hostages, but it looks like that would at present mean allowing Hamas or some version of a diminished Hamas to stay in power in Gaza. I have to say, I love Ben & Jerry's ice cream, but I don't know how profound is various protesters understanding what's going on, because Palestinian suffering could end in about a split second if Hamas laid down its arms, surrendered as any other rational entity would have done after what's been going on, and handed back the hostages. Every day that passes is needless suffering on the part of the Palestinians because of Hamas.
Sure. Yeah, I think that when Americans hear a name maybe that they know more than others, maybe they pay attention more, and maybe that was the plan for that talk that he gave. So former Europe, Africa, and Middle East editor at the Associated Press, Dan Perry, always great to have you on the program. Thanks for joining us.